Feb.24.2011. 2011. That was the day that I got fired from the last job I've ever had. So today is February 24th, 2020, and it has now been 9 years since I got fired from the last job I've ever had. I feel it's time for me to tell this story because when you hear it, it's crazy. So many things happened on that day and following that day. And that day led to a series of events. And it's one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur and a YouTuber. All right, so here we go, full on story mode. Okay, so before I got fired from the job that I had found this book called The Secret in 2008-ish, 2009. And that book pretty much changed my whole perspective on life. Before I had read The Secret, I was a depressed person that had a lot of anxiety. I was angry all the time. Pretty much my life sucked in my eyes. Like I had a horrible life, everything. It wasn't, I would have fun moments and I would laugh with people. But in general, I thought my life was pretty much going nowhere. I thought I was stupid. I didn't think that I was going to be smart enough to do anything because I wasn't smart in high school. I got really bad grades in all the subjects except for art, and everyone around me was telling me that I couldn't be an artist because you can't make any money. So when I read this book, The Secret, it pretty much was like taking sunglasses off. Like, you know, when you put on sunglasses and everything's like brownish, gray, like the colors are all muted because the sun is so bright and it has to protect you from the UV rays, so everything's more dull. You don't see vibrant color. After reading the book The Secret, it was like taking off sunglasses and I could see color. And when I finished that book, I said to myself, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur. And at the time, when I read that book, social media wasn't popping, things weren't happening yet. There was Facebook and Twitter, but it isn't like it is now. And I think pretty much blogging was like the only popular thing. So now I've read this book and I've got ideas. I've got goals, I've got dreams. And I'm working at this insurance job. So I worked at this private insurance company in downtown, and at first I loved the job because my previous jobs were working at McDonald's and Starbucks. And if you've ever worked in those kind of jobs, you're on your feet 8+ hours a day. You smell like fries, you smell like the coffee, you get dirty. It's pretty hard manual labor work. And so when I went over to this office job where I could sit down in a chair that costs like $200, I had 2 computer screens, my own telephone, and I didn't have to ask anyone to go to the washroom, I was on cloud 9 for the first year. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I don't have to wear a uniform. I could wear like clothes that I want to wear. I have my own desk, my own phone. The pressure isn't that crazy. And you don't have 40 people lined up during the lunch rush and they're all wanting the value meal. It was a completely different environment. Now, I worked at this insurance job. I was a claims clerk / adjuster. So what that means is I'd pretty much answer the phone and you were calling because you either got into a car accident, something happened to your house. Those are pretty much the main reasons why you're calling. Something's gone wrong. And after a year of doing that job, it became very repetitive. I'm not good at doing the same thing over and over, and there's no cool surprises and excitement. That's one of the reasons why I love my job now, because there's so many surprises and you don't know what's going to happen, and it's really exciting. Every day is exciting for me. But at this job, it was going to be the exact same thing. I would arrive in at 8, 9 a.m., grab my first of 5 cups of coffee. That's not including the pop drinks that I would drink. And I would need these drinks to stay awake because by afternoon I'm falling asleep at my desk. Like I've fell asleep, where you're just sitting upright and you're just kind of like that and you just close your eyes and before you know it, you're sleeping. Yeah, I was doing that all the time. And a year into this office job, this claims clerk / adjuster, I became even more depressed than before at my other jobs, because I really thought this was going to be the gateway to everything. I really thought that this job was like, okay, I'm working in downtown, I'm making what I think is good money, and I have an office job. When I was back in high school, I was like, oh, if I can get like a really cush, easy office job that pays well, I'll be set. And I got that. And after a year, it all faded. All the excitement and depression set in, and it was very hard for me to go into work. Like I would wake up in the morning and just have complete dread inside and in my head. I would start to show up late. I would not do my work. And so when I read the book, The Secret, at the time, I still had a job, and so did Arit, who is my business partner. And we started to work on our business. And every day after work, we would go to networking meetings and meet other entrepreneurs. And at the time, we didn't know what business we wanted to do yet. Our first initial business was creating our own greeting cards, because we were both really crafty, and Arit was really good at making greeting cards, and I was also really artsy as well. So we thought, hey, let's make greeting cards. That didn't pan out, so that's why we would attend so many networking meetings in Vancouver to get ideas on what our next business was going to be. And to be honest, we were just going to these meetings and meeting other people and doing coffees and just like doing a lot of networking. And then we stumbled on, okay, we need a website. And so we would start to have these little projects for our business. And we became so obsessed with it that took up everything. And I started to switch my focus at work from actual work to working on my new business. So one of the things that I realized when I had a 9-to-5 job was whether I work this much or this much, I'm going to get paid the exact same. I didn't have a job where you get like tips or anything like that. There were bonuses, or a yearly bonus, but it was very small. And so when I realized that concept and that term, whether I'm going to work this much or this much, I'm going to get paid the same, and literally my pay stubs that you get every week were the same, I stopped opening them, and they just piled up inside my desk because there was no point in opening them. It was going to be the same number over and over again. When I realized that, that's when I started to be strategic with what I was doing at work. So at work, you're supposed to answer the phones, take the claims, and depending on what the claim was, if it was like a cracked windshield, then I would, send them to a repair shop to get that fixed, paid some invoices from the body shops. That was basically my job, was doing those kind of things. So when I became obsessed with my business, I decided, okay, let's move all this actual work that I have to do, let's move it to the end of the week on Thursdays and Fridays, mainly Fridays. And for the rest of the week, I'm going to work on my business, my new business, which is exciting, which is fun. And so, during company time, I'd be on the computers printing stuff off for our business, not really answering the calls. And if I did answer the call, I would just put the people on hold or transfer it to someone else, because I was just so obsessed and just so into this new venture and so excited that I only wanted to work on this, but I still had this 9-to-5 job. Now, after I read the book, The Secret, I had this whole vision of I'm going to create the business to a certain point, and then I'm going to hand in my letter of resignation because I'm going to have the income. I'm going to replace my 9 to 5 income, and then I'm going to hand my letter of resignation to HR because I don't need this job anymore. That's how I wanted it to go. A year into doing this whole juggling thing, it started to catch up with me, and I really started to let the ball go. And, my superiors started to notice that, like, I actually wasn't doing any work at all. And on February 24th, 2011, I was brought into HR's office, and I knew right away that something was wrong. I knew that when my boss said, "Can I see you for a second?" I could tell right away something was about to go down, because you could just see, like, he looked really upset, and I'm here in the HR's office with him, and they confront me, and they say, like, "We know that you haven't been doing your actual work. You haven't been taking the calls. You haven't been doing this. Like, what do you have to say for yourself?" And at this point, I was so far removed from everything that the actual words that came out of my mouth at that moment was, "I feel like a robot at this job. I don't feel fulfilled at this job. I feel depressed at this job." And they were kind of speechless, because I think that they weren't expecting that. And a couple months before that, I had actually gotten a really great review from my boss, and I was going to be getting a raise. And so they hadn't suspected that I was doing this for the whole year. It was only earlier in the month of February that they had noticed, because I slipped up and I got all cocky, and I thought I, had this whole system of not doing work, but I'm working on other work, and I'm still getting paid, but I'm not actually doing work. And, I slipped, and they caught me. And so when I said those words, the HR representative looked really upset, because she really liked me, and she looked like she was gonna cry. And I was trying so hard to hold it together, because I was going to cry, but I was holding it. I was trying to be as strong as possible, because I did not want to cry in front of people. And what's funny is, the day that I got fired from this job, I had actually scheduled my first counseling session, through the company with the benefits and stuff. I had scheduled a counseling session because my depression at the time was becoming so strong that I felt like I needed professional help. And on that day, I was supposed to have my first session through my company's benefits, but I had just gotten fired. And so when I told them what was going on, my reasoning why I did it, pretty much that was it. And someone had gathered all my stuff at the desk, and I wasn't allowed to go back into the floor to say goodbye to my friends, my coworkers. I had made friends that are really good friends, and I wasn't allowed to say anything. And I was escorted downstairs to the library like I was like a fugitive. When I got downstairs, that's when things started to crack. I called my best friend and business partner, Arit, while I was in the lobby. And, she answered the phone all happy, thinking that I was calling to meet up for lunch or something. And then she knew it was me on the phone. And she's like, hello, Jewel? And then I got so choked up, and I just went, Arit. And then my voice completely cracked, and she knew right away that something was wrong. She's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong? What's wrong? What happened?" And I managed to muster up and say, "I got fired." And she's like, "What?" She's in complete shock. "How? What? Are you serious?" And that's all I could really say, because at that point, the tears had come down, and I'm in a public place. I'm in the lobby of still the building. And she said, okay, go to your car, and I'll meet you at lunchtime. And at the time, I used to park across the street at this hotel, at the Marriott Hotel. They had this underground parking, and I used to park there. And so, with tears streaming down my face, I run across the street and I just get into the passenger side of the SUV and I just burst into tears. And as I'm crying, I look out the front windshield and I see that there's a piece of paper there. And I get out of the car and I look to see that I've received a parking ticket. I got a parking ticket for like $150 or something because I paid for parking, but I punched in one letter incorrectly on the license plate. You're supposed to punch in your license plate, and I accidentally typed in one letter incorrect from my actual license plate. So here I am, I just got fired. I'm crying my eyes out, and I've just received a $150 ticket. So at this point, I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm crying so hard because I'm scared / shocked / relieved. Because in a sense, like I did want to get out of a 9-to-5, but this was not the plan. The plan was not to get fired. The plan was to make a whole bunch, to replace my income, and then walk in there and hand in my letter of resignation and do it that way. It was not, in my opinion, I was so embarrassed. Like, I felt like a criminal because at the time, getting fired was like, it's such a bad connotation. Like, oh, you got fired, like you're like tainted now. And so I'm crying and I'm like, okay, I have to tell my mom right away because she often would call me in the office and at my desk to my direct line, and I've got to tell her before she calls and finds out. So I call my mom. I'm still crying. And at this point, when you cry so hard, everything is puffy. You can't even see at this point because your eyes are just so puffy. It's like you've been in a boxing match and everything is puffy, snot going everywhere. You can't even breathe. It was like that. And I called my mom and I told her that I got fired. She was so shocked and scared for me. She thought, oh my God, Jewel, what are you going to do? Like how are you going to pay your bills and all this kind of stuff? And which was making me even more scared. And I told her, why it happened. I got fired because I wasn't doing the work. I was working on Essetino stuff. They caught me, so I'm fired. Lunchtime rolls around and Arit comes to the car and she sees me and I look horrible. I look like I've been stepped on. She's trying to calm me down as best as she can, and she knows that I was obsessed with the book, The Secret. And one of the first things that she said to me was, it's going to be okay. I think this is a sign from the universe. She's like, I know that this isn't what you wanted to happen, but you didn't want a job, remember? You wanted to get out of your 9-to-5. I think this is a sign. And she said that it calmed me down a little. I'm still so down on myself. And at this point, I've cried as much as I can. I have no more tears, just have a pounding headache and my face is like exploded. Before Arit had to go back to work, her lunchtime was ending and she said, Jewel, you got to pull yourself together, okay? I really think that this is a sign from the universe. And hey, at 5 p.m., we have that meeting. We have the meeting with so-and-so about the website. She was interested in getting a website from us. Pull yourself together. And I was like, I don't think I can do the meeting. And she was like, no, you have to. Because I really did not want to go to this meeting at this point. But she convinced me that I should still pull through and go to this meeting at 5 p.m. with this potential client. Now, because our business was so new, this was our first client ever. Our first real meeting. And it was at a Waves coffee shop. So I managed to go to the hotel washroom, put cold water on my face, go to the washroom, grab something to eat. I'm trying to find some ice so that I can like calm down the eye puffing that's going on and to just get rid of this like pounding headache that I have. I managed to clean myself as best I could, and at 5 p.m. we headed to that meeting. Here's the crazy thing. We did that meeting, we pitched her, and we said, yes, we can create this website for you. And at the end of that meeting, she wrote us a check for $500. The day that I got fired is the day that Essetino, our business, got our first $500, our first money ever from a client. Up until that point, we hadn't made any money. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I went from one extreme to another. I went from being fired to our business making our first $500 in one meeting. At the time, both Arit and I's daily salary, what we would make in a day from two people, from both of us, did not add up to $500. And we just got it in one go, in one check. That opened up our eyes. And I remember looking at that check and going, whoa, this is crazy. And you know, after that, it wasn't like smooth sailing, like, oh, we just totally went up the mountain and we won everything. A week later, so I've gotten fired. So here's so far the turn of events. I've gotten fired. I get a ticket. We make our first client sale for $500. A week after that, I got into a car accident and my car had to be like, it was undrivable, so they had to take it away. And then a week after that, it was my birthday. So it was like a crazy 2-3 weeks. As hard as it was to go through that, I haven't looked back. And when I felt the freedom of being able to create my own day on what I want to do, I've never thought about going back and getting a traditional 9-to-5 job. And you know, I was so embarrassed of being fired that I didn't tell anyone. Only like less than 5 people knew, like my parents and my sister knew, Arit obviously knew, and like 1 or 2 other people knew. And no one else really knew what happened. And I didn't tell people for many years. And you know, even after being fired, I still went to downtown from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or 9 to 5 during those times. And I would work at a coffee shop. And I would bring my laptop, and for 8+ hours, I was now going to figure out this whole business thing and what was going to be happening with it. And we thought, okay, this is it here. This is where we make a real go at this. Arit still has a job and now I don't. So now I can put more effort into this to get it going. So here we are, 2020. It's been many years later and there have been so many ups and downs, and it was roller coaster. But I have to say, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It has been so exciting. Every day is like a new day of excitement. What could happen? Who could contact us? Who could see our videos? What opportunities will come today? Who can we help today? As hard and as painful as it was to go through those series of events, it was totally worth it. It's totally worth it, and I have never looked back. So after going through all of that, my advice to any of you that have been or are going through something like this is to go after something that you truly believe in. I truly believed that I could create my own days, create my own life, create my own job filled with excitement, travel, video. You know, our whole tagline is dare to be dream driven, and you really do need to dare to be dream driven because it takes a lot of guts to go after what you want to do. It's not easy, but I can assure you, if it's something that you truly want, it's worth it. So that is the story of how I got fired from the last job I ever had. And that was 9 years ago on February 24th, 2011. Thank you guys so much if you've gotten to the end of this video and listened to my story. I really do appreciate it.